winning millions, living like kings, and then losing it all. Poker's biggest names built fortunes and watched them vanish. Today, we are diving into the real stories behind the rise and the brutal falls. Gus Hansen was never just another poker player. He was a storm that swept through the game. They called him the Great Dane, but titles hardly captured the chaos he unleashed when he sat down at the table. In a world that worshipped patience and careful calculation, Gus tore up the script. He did not wait for premium hands. He fought for every pot, charging forward with fearless aggression and a mind wired differently from everyone else's. His rise felt unstoppable. Tournament after tournament, Gus etched his name into the history books. He became the first player to win 3 World Poker Tour titles, dazzling fans with moves no textbook could explain. It was how he won. Gus made poker look electric, unpredictable, alive. Everywhere he played, he left a trail of stunned opponents and new believers, all trying and failing to mimic the magic he carried. But the higher you climb, the further you have to fall. Gus's real battle did not unfold under the bright lights of televised tournaments. It happened in the brutal, unforgiving world of online high-stakes cash games. Full tilt poker became his new arena, a place where the blinds were bigger, the players were sharper, and the swings could break even the strongest wills. Here, Gus's greatest weapon, his relentless aggression, turned into a double-edged sword. The same fearless spirit that had built his legend now started tearing it apart. Over time, the numbers told a grim story. Hansen reportedly lost over $20 million playing online cash games, a staggering loss that erased even his largest live victories. In a world where patience and precision ruled, Gus kept swinging, kept pushing, kept trying to force destiny to bend, and every time the deck pushed back, it took another piece of him. The relentless grind wore him down. There were stretches where Gus walked away from the game altogether, only to return and face the same merciless outcomes. The Great Dane who once ruled the poker world now seemed like he was fighting ghosts, trying to claw his way back to a time when every risk seemed to end with applause. But here's the part of the story that matters most. Gus Hansen never hid. Even as the losses piled up, even as his bankroll withered, he stayed honest. He admitted the pain, the mistakes, the brutal realities of playing a game where you could give everything and still lose. And because of that, Gus remains more than a memory. He remains a symbol, not of invincibility, but of heart, of resilience, of the rare kind of competitor who knows that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is keep showing up.
So it just seemed like the thing to do to move to Vegas and play poker.
Ted Forrest was a force of nature, a 6-time World Series of poker bracelet winner with a hunger for risk that went far beyond the cards in his hand. At the tables, he was relentless. Away from them, he was fearless. High-stakes games, outrageous prop bets, it did not matter. If there was a gamble to be had, Ted Forrest was ready to take it. And it was more than his skill that made him famous. It was the way he lived on the edge, betting everything, sometimes even his own body. One story says it all. Ted once bet Mike Mattisau that he could shed nearly 50 pounds in just a few months. Most people would have laughed at the idea. Ted didn't. He gritted through it, starving and sweating his way down to a shadow of himself. And he won. The reported prize? $2 million. But the victory came at a brutal cost. Ted later claimed he never received the full payout. Worse, the extreme weight loss wrecked his health. Instead of a financial windfall, the win only deepened his financial problems. Another risk that backfired. And that was just the beginning. In 2013, Ted signed a confession admitting he owed the Wynn Casino $270,000. An agreement was made to settle the debt, but court records show the full amount was never paid. The case closed eventually, but the stain on Ted's finances lingered like a bad beat that never ended. Then came 2015. The Mirage Casino filed another lawsuit, this time chasing $40,500 from a $100,000 loan extended back in 2013. The court ruled against Ted, adding another crushing weight to his already sinking financial state. Even when Ted clawed back a 4th-place finish in the World Series of Poker 7-Card Stud Championship, cashing in $73,000, it barely made a dent. Whispers around the poker world said the winnings were swallowed almost instantly by outstanding debts, a cruel cycle of hard-fought victories and even harder defeats. For a man once celebrated for his fearless pursuit of the impossible, Ted Forrest's story has turned into something much darker. A tale not just of lost fortunes, but of battles against debts, casinos, and the toll that a life of non-stop gambling can take when the cards finally turn cold. TJ Cloutier was a legend whose name became woven into the very fabric of the game. With 6 World Series of poker bracelets and more than $10 million in live tournament earnings, Cloutier's career was a masterclass in consistency, resilience, and raw skill. He conquered every major form of Omaha, limit high, pot limit high, and limit 8, or better high-low split, a feat no other player could match. During the late 1980s and 90s, TJ Cloutier was a dominant force, carving out top 5 finishes at the World Series main event and becoming a fan favorite with his no-nonsense, fearless approach to poker. But the road that led him to the top was anything but ordinary. Before the cards, Cloutier was a college football player with dreams that stretched far beyond the green felt. When business ventures collapsed and life threw him curveballs, he turned to poker, a new battleground where survival depended not on strength or speed, but on nerve and instinct. Yet even as he built a towering legacy, Cloutier carried a shadow with him, a weakness for gambling that mirrored the swings of the very game he mastered. Despite earning millions, the real battle was not at the poker table. It was on the casino floor. Cloutier had an irresistible pull toward high-stakes craps, and time after time, he would carry his poker winnings straight to the dice tables, and often leave with empty pockets. Stories from those days tell of Cloutier winning big in tournaments, only to see the fortune evaporate within hours, chasing the next thrill that was always just out of reach. The consequences eventually caught up to him, and the poker world saw it unfold. In 2010, a piece of poker history quietly surfaced online. Cloutier's 2005 World Series bracelet auctioned off for just over $4,000. It was a symbol, a sobering reminder that even the greatest can fall when discipline fades. For fans who idolized him, the sight was heartbreaking. And there was more. In the years that followed, whispers grew louder. Cloutier, the mighty champion, reportedly seeking financial backing from fellow players just to enter low buy-in tournaments. For a man of his stature, it was a humbling fall from grace. To his credit, Cloutier never hid from the truth. In interviews, he spoke candidly about his journey, about the cost of chasing risk not just at the poker table, but in life itself. He understood better than most that success without balance can become its own kind of trap. Yet despite it all, Cloutier's legacy endures, not only as a competitor but as a teacher. His books, filled with honest, practical strategies, have guided countless players trying to find their own path through the chaos of poker. He gave back to the game that made him a legend, offering the next generation the wisdom he had paid so dearly to learn. In the end, TJ Cloutier's story is not just one of triumph or tragedy, it is a testament to the highs, the lows, and the human cost of living life on the edge. In 2007, Jerry Yang was a name few had heard, until he became the ultimate poker champion. With just a $225 satellite entry, he battled his way to the top of the World Series of Poker main event and walked away with an $8,250,000 payday. It was the stuff of dreams, a meteoric rise that poker players and fans everywhere could not stop talking about.
1 million.
Another million from Yang.
1 million.
And
Yang played with heart. He took bold, calculated risks and wore every emotion on his sleeve. He prayed during hands. He thanked the heavens after big wins. In the world of stone-faced professionals, Jerry was raw and real, and fans connected with him instantly. But even fairy tales have shadows. After his historic win, Yang pledged to give back, donating large portions of his winnings to charities like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the Ronald McDonald House, and his church. It was a move made from the heart, but it came before he secured his own financial footing. The tax burden from his winnings soon began to crush him, and despite the life-changing payday, the foundation of his fortune started to crack almost immediately. By 2013, the cracks had become gaping holes. The IRS seized several of Yang's assets, including the most painful loss of all, his World Series of Poker bracelet. Over $570,000 in tax debt forced a public auction of the very symbol of his greatest triumph. For a man who once stood atop the poker world, it was a devastating fall. In interviews, Yang has opened up about the painful lessons he learned. He spoke of trusting the wrong people, of not fully understanding the tax avalanche that came with his victory, and of the regret he felt giving away money before securing his future. The winnings vanished faster than anyone could have imagined, leaving Jerry staring down debts that seemed impossible to climb out from under. He fought back, trying to rebuild outside the poker world. He opened restaurants like Pocket 8's Sushi and Grill in California, hoping to steady the ship. But even with new ventures, the weight of his obligations was too much to outrun. Jerry Yang still appears in the poker scene now and then, but the days of million-dollar triumphs are far behind him. The real challenge comes after the applause fades. Gavin Griffin was once the very image of a poker prodigy. In 2004, at just 22 years old, he stormed onto the world stage, becoming the youngest player ever to win a World Series of Poker bracelet by conquering the $3,000 pot limit hold'em event. Most players would have been content to etch their names into poker history once. Gavin kept going. He achieved what many only dream about, the elusive poker Triple Crown, a win at the European Poker Tour in Monte Carlo, a title at the World Poker Tour Borgata Classic, and by the end of it, more than $5 million in live tournament earnings. For a while, it looked like Gavin Griffin was unstoppable, a star not just rising, but blazing across the sky. But behind the fame and flashing lights, a different story was quietly unfolding. The pressure to stay on top, to live the life that came with success, began to mount. Luxury travel, the high-stakes grind, constant expectations from fans and sponsors. The Gavin Griffin, who had built his reputation on discipline, started making decisions that chipped away at his foundation. The money came fast and went faster. Without strict bankroll management, the lines blurred between poker winnings and personal spending. To fuel the lifestyle, Gavin started reaching deeper into his bankroll, taking bigger risks to chase the stakes and status that once felt natural. The losses began to stack up, and soon the dream started slipping away. In a rare moment of public honesty, Gavin admitted what few in his position ever would. He had to step back. He needed to rebuild. Swallowing his pride, he dropped down to lower stakes games, a humbling transition after living the life of a superstar. There's a huge difference in going from playing the big tournaments to stepping down in stakes, he said in an interview, a simple sentence loaded with the weight of everything he had been through. But it was a necessary step if he wanted a future in the game he loved. Gavin did not just rebuild on the felt. He found a new calling, sharing his hard-earned lessons with others. Through writing and teaching, he opened up about his own struggles, warning young players about the hidden traps of sudden success. His message resonated across the poker community. Discipline matters. Every single day, you live off those winnings. In the end, Gavin Griffin's story is about resilience, humility, and the courage to start over, even after you have already touched the stars. David Chino Ream was never just another poker player. He was a storm of talent and charisma, a force that crashed into the poker world and demanded attention. With a smooth tongue, a quick mind, and a fearless style, Ream racked up more than $12 million in live tournament winnings over his career. In 2008, he burst into the spotlight by finishing 7th in the World Series of Poker main event, taking home nearly $2 million. And that was just the beginning. He went on to claim multiple World Poker Tour titles, adding a major victory at the 2019 PokerStars Caribbean Adventure main event, another $1.5 million to his name. On the surface, Ream lived the dream. Millions won, trophies lifted, a career most players could only fantasize about. But beneath the victories, another story played out, one far messier, far harder to fix. Chino Ream's life became a whirlwind of extremes. The wins came in waves, the crashes hit just as hard. He admitted, without flinching, that he went broke within a week of winning big. Not once, not twice, but at least 5 separate times. Each triumph brought hope that this time would be different. Each downfall reminded everyone how quickly fortunes could disappear. And poker was only part of the battle. Substance abuse crept into his life, fueling a lifestyle already teetering on the edge. Debts piled up. Whispers turned to shouts as more players came forward. Ream owed them money, and many feared they would never see a dime. In 2011, the Epic Poker League made a rare move. Even after Ream won their inaugural event, they placed him on probation, publicly citing his outstanding debts. It was a harsh spotlight, laying bare the chaos that had always lurked just behind his easy smile. In interviews, Ream faced the comparisons to Stu Ungar, the brilliant but tragic figure of poker's past. He spoke with honesty about his demons, about trying to outrun the self-destruction that seemed stitched into his story. But time after time, the same cycle played out. A big win, a wave of optimism, and then another heartbreaking fall. Yet in recent years, something shifted. David Chino Ream began the long, painful process of rebuilding. He acknowledged the damage he had caused. He made it his mission to repay old debts, to walk away from self-destruction, to honor the second chances that many believed he no longer deserved. By all accounts, the Chino Ream of today is not the reckless figure of old. He still plays, he still competes. But now, there is a different energy, a commitment to stability, to accountability, to finally letting his undeniable talent shine without the weight of his past dragging him down. It is not an easy road, it never is. But for the first time in a long time, there is real reason to believe that Chino Ream's story might yet find its redemption.